Part 1. The beautiful abyss of survival. What happens when survival becomes more important than morality? Imagine a man walking through a burning city. Everything he's ever known is gone. His family, maybe. His beliefs, definitely. He's not thinking about kindness or goodness. He's thinking about water, shelter, a weapon. At that moment, he's not who he was. He's someone else. And so the question we begin with is this: how far would you go to survive? And more importantly, who would you become? Welcome to the dark corridors of the mind. Not the kind you wander casually into, but the kind you're thrown into by life. Some people face chaos and break. Others become something else entirely. Some become monsters. Not because they want to, but because it's the only way they can continue breathing. Friedrich Nietzsche warned us, he who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. But what if the abyss is your only way out? What if becoming a monster means becoming free? You see, we often talk about trauma like it's just a wound. But trauma is an architect. It rebuilds you. It rewires the way you see reality, people, time. You don't just survive trauma. You adapt to it. And sometimes adaptation looks like cruelty, coldness, or rage. But what if those aren't flaws? What if those are survival mechanisms? Ask yourself this. If you were locked in a cage for years and came out biting, would that make you a beast or a survivor? We love to judge from a distance. It's easy to say, I'd never do that. But you don't know who you are until you're starving, until your soul is being clawed apart, until the world tells you, choose your morals or your life. And when people choose life, we call them monsters. But maybe they're just mirrors, reflecting the parts of ourselves we've buried. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That includes the parts of you that would kill to protect your child. The part that would lie, steal, or destroy to keep breathing. That part isn't evil. It's ancient. It's you. Let's go deeper. Imagine a child growing up in violence. Home isn't safe. School isn't safe. The world is a battlefield. That child learns quickly. Emotions are weaknesses. Trust is a trap. Softness gets punished. So what does the child become? Hard, sharp, emotionless, a weapon, a survivor. And when that child grows up and acts with coldness, the world says, monster. But who made the monster? Who taught them that kindness is dangerous? Who showed them that love is a liability? This is the paradox. The monster is not born, it is built. Slowly, over time, through betrayal, abandonment, and pain repeated like a ritual. And here's the most terrifying part. The transformation is usually invisible. No one sees the moment kindness dies. No one notices the exact second the soul closes its doors. It happens in silence, in the dark, and by the time anyone realizes, the monster is already walking.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But let's pause. Let's not look away, because this isn't just about them. This is about you. Have you ever suppressed your empathy to survive a toxic relationship? Have you ever become cold to get through a heartbreak? Have you ever pretended not to care because caring hurt too much? These are tiny transformations, tiny monster births, and they happen in all of us, every day. So maybe the monster isn't a villain. Maybe the monster is a protector. Imagine your psyche as a kingdom. When peace reigns, the king is wisdom. But when war breaks out, the king is fear. And fear appoints new generals. Rage, numbness, manipulation. These aren't moral failures. They're defense strategies. The monster is not evil, it's efficient. It does what needs to be done when the world no longer makes sense. But here's the danger. When the war ends and you don't lay down your weapons, you remain a soldier in a time of peace. You keep fighting ghosts. You keep destroying what no longer threatens you. And that's when survival becomes self-destruction. That's when the monster, once your shield, becomes your cage. So the deeper question is this: can you come back? Can a person who became a monster to survive ever return to who they were before? Or is the transformation permanent? Philosopher Heraclitus said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." Maybe the goal isn't to go back. Maybe it's to become something new. Someone who carries the scars, but not the swords. Let's not romanticize this. Some people do terrible things in the name of survival. They hurt others. They become abusers themselves. And yet, if we simply label them evil, we miss the opportunity to understand the root. Because understanding isn't the same as excusing. Understanding is how we break the cycle. If we want to heal the monsters, we must first listen to them. And this brings us to you again. What monsters live inside you? What parts of yourself do you suppress because they scare you? What if, instead of suppressing them, you integrated them? Jung called it the shadow, the unconscious part of our psyche that contains all the parts we deny. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So what if the monster isn't your enemy but your teacher? This is not a comfortable journey. It requires brutal honesty. It requires facing the darkest parts of yourself without turning away. But on the other side of that confrontation is power, real power. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that can't be dominated. And that's what true survivors become. Not monsters in the traditional sense, but people who've walked through hell and came back with their eyes open. So the next time you judge someone for their coldness, ask, what storm did they walk through? What did they have to kill inside themselves just to make it through the night? And if that person is you, if you've become something you don't recognize, ask yourself this: what did I lose to survive? And more importantly, what am I willing to reclaim? This is the beginning of our journey. We are not here to condemn the monster. We're here to understand its birth, its purpose, and its possible redemption. Because in some way, we are all one decision away from becoming something unrecognizable. And yet within that very darkness, there is also the seed of awakening. Part 2, the mask that eats the face. There's a chilling truth about survival. Sometimes the transformation that saves us also erases us. The monster we become to protect ourselves begins to believe it is us. And over time, the mask doesn't just hide the face, it becomes the face. This is where the danger lies. Not in the transformation itself, but in the forgetting. In the slow erosion of who we once were, until we can no longer remember what it felt like to be soft, to be safe, to be human. You see, when we become monsters to survive, we adopt behaviors that numb pain, block vulnerability, and project strength. These behaviors work. That's the terrifying part. They get results. You avoid being hurt again. You gain control. You stop bleeding, but you also stop feeling. You stop trusting. You stop connecting. You become a fortress with no doors. And what is a fortress with no doors? A prison. Psychologically, this is known as dissociation from the self. A defense mechanism so powerful, it can divide a person into fragments. The child who was once innocent builds an adult who is ruthless. The dreamer becomes the cynic. The lover becomes the manipulator. We trade parts of our soul for armor. But here's the cost. Eventually, we forget what we traded. And the worst part? We start to justify the monster. This is just who I am. I was born this way. People are weak, and I refuse to be one of them. But those are not truths. Those are scars speaking. Let's pause here and ask a dangerous question. Have you mistaken your trauma for your personality? Have you told yourself that your coldness is just being real? That your inability to trust is intelligence? That your rage is strength? These are illusions we build to survive, but they are not us. Not really. They are masks. Powerful, necessary masks, but masks nonetheless. And the longer we wear them, the more we forget how our real face even looked. This is where philosophy and psychology merge into something beautifully brutal. Let's go to Soren Kierkegaard, who once said, "The greatest hazard of all, losing one's self, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all." Quietly. That's the key. Not with a scream, but with a whisper, with a compromise, with a choice that feels small, until one day you wake up and you're a stranger to your own reflection. So how do we prevent this? How do we survive the fire without becoming ash? The answer is not to avoid the monster, but to know it, to sit with it, to recognize its shape, its voice, its purpose. This is what Jung meant by integrating the shadow. He didn't say to destroy the monster. He said to befriend it, because the shadow holds power, it holds truth. But until it's made conscious, it will control us from the dark. This is where wisdom becomes practical. If you've had to become a monster to survive good, that means you survived. But now comes the next step, transformation. Not into who you were before, but into something greater. A conscious being who chooses when to be soft and when to be sharp, who can access the monster when needed, but does not live in it. This is the path of the warrior sage, the path of the awakened. Let's break this down with a real example. Imagine someone who grew up in a violent home. They learned that emotions are dangerous, that crying invites more pain, so they shut down. As an adult, they become hyper-independent, emotionally unavailable, and controlling in relationships. The world sees them as cold, but this isn't who they are, it's who they had to be to survive. Now imagine this person begins therapy, begins inner work, begins journaling, reflecting, meditating, and one day they feel something they haven't felt in years. Sadness. Raw, human sadness. That's not weakness. That's returning. Recovery is not about flipping a switch. It's about reclaiming 1 inch of humanity at a time. It's about choosing to feel even when it hurts. Choosing to trust even when it terrifies you. Choosing to connect even when every instinct screams to run. This is the real courage. This is the real war. Not the war outside, but the war within. Now let's ask another piercing question. What part of yourself did you kill to survive? And more hauntingly, is it still buried, or is it trying to come back to life? Maybe you silenced your creativity to be productive. Maybe you buried your compassion to climb the social ladder. Maybe you numbed your love to avoid betrayal. These are not just coping mechanisms. These are funerals, and it's time to dig up the graves. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It's the idea that trauma doesn't just destroy, it also builds. That people who endure extreme suffering can emerge with deeper empathy, stronger values, and unshakable wisdom, but only if they process the trauma. Only if they face the monster, not with hatred, but with curiosity. Only if they ask, what did this pain teach me? Instead of why did this happen to me? Let's go even deeper. Some people fall in love with their monster. They see it as their superpower, their edge, their advantage. And in some ways, it is. But what they don't realize is that the monster demands a price. It isolates you. It destroys intimacy. It breeds paranoia. And worst of all, it tells you that you don't need anyone, that you are safer alone. But humans are not meant to walk alone forever. Connection is not a luxury, it's a psychological necessity. And the monster, for all its strength, cannot give you that. This is why so many successful people feel empty. They conquered the world but lost themselves. They mastered strategy but forgot softness. They built empires but burned their hearts. And when they look around, there's no one left. Just silence. Just echoes. Just the monster in the mask. But you are here. You're listening. That means there's still time. Time to step out of the mask. Time to remember who you were before the world wounded you. Time to become someone who doesn't just survive but lives. Fully, fiercely, freely. Let's return to Nietzsche one more time. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos is not the enemy. The monster is not the enemy. They are part of the story, but they are not the end. The end is what you choose to do with them. So ask yourself now, what would it look like to no longer need the monster? What would it feel like to be soft and strong, to be open and protected, to be loving and wise? That is the integration. That is the evolution. That is the revolution of the self. And maybe, just maybe, the monster wasn't there to destroy you. Maybe it was there to guide you through the fire and then step aside. Part 3, the redemption of the beast. Now we arrive at the final threshold, the moment where survival ends and awakening begins. If you've followed this journey, then you've already walked through the fire. You've faced your monster. You've questioned your reflection. And now the question that remains is perhaps the most difficult of all. Can the beast be redeemed? Can the thing you became in the darkness turn back toward the light without being destroyed by it? Let's start with a hard truth. Redemption isn't about returning to who you were. That person is gone. And maybe that's okay. Because now you have the chance to become someone new, someone forged in fire, but not owned by it. You are no longer the frightened child or the ruthless survivor. You are the architect now, the one who decides which parts stay and which parts are laid to rest. That's not just healing, that's transcendence. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the paradox of pain. The monster you became was the obstacle, but it is also the path. Because without it, you would not have discovered your strength. You would not have learned to see through illusion. You would not have found the courage to ask the questions you're asking now. What was once your burden is now your wisdom. What once devoured you may now become your guide. But let us not be naive. The monster does not vanish overnight. It lingers. It waits. It whispers. And sometimes it even helps. There will be moments when that part of you is still needed, when you must protect, assert, defend. But the difference now is that you choose. You're no longer reacting blindly. You're responding consciously. The monster is no longer in control. It is a tool, nothing more. So how do we integrate this? How do we walk with the monster without being consumed by it? We begin with radical honesty. We stop pretending. We stop performing. We stop playing roles designed to keep others comfortable or ourselves hidden. We speak the truth of our experience, the full truth. Not just the pain, but the power. Not just the damage, but the depth. And when we do that, something miraculous happens. The monster transforms. It becomes a story a symbol, a gift. This is where psychology meets mythology. In nearly every ancient tale, the hero must face a beast, a dragon, a demon, a shadow. And in many of these stories, the hero does not kill the monster. They understand it, they tame it, or they learn something from it that's essential to their transformation. That's not fiction, that's archetypal truth. You are not meant to slay your shadow. You are meant to learn from it. Let's ask something terrifying but necessary. What would your life look like if you released the identity of the monster entirely? If you no longer needed to be feared or in control or closed off? If you no longer needed to be the strongest person in every room? If you no longer needed to prove your worth by how much pain you can endure? What would your life become if tenderness was no longer a threat but a strength? This is the path of integration. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is slow, quiet, sacred. It looks like asking for help. It looks like forgiving yourself. It looks like crying without shame, laughing without needing permission, loving without fear of losing. It looks like becoming fully human again, maybe for the first time. There's a beauty that only those who've suffered can access. A depth of empathy, a softness of presence, a fierce compassion that does not tolerate injustice but also does not perpetuate it. These are the gifts of the healed monster, the gifts of the survivor who chose to live, not just endure. The gifts of someone who looked into the abyss and didn't run but built a home at its edge. Let's return to the mirror now. Look again. Do you still see the monster? Or do you see the survivor? Do you see the one who made impossible choices and kept going? The one who was abandoned but never gave up? Who was betrayed but still dares to trust? Who was silenced but now speaks? That face is not a mask. That is who you've become. Not perfect, not pure, but whole. And wholeness is the goal. Not perfection, not sainthood. Wholeness, a full spectrum human being who can rage and rest, protect and open, weep and laugh all in the same body. That is power. That is wisdom. That is freedom. So what now? What do you do, having walked through this journey? You live. You reach back for others still lost in their darkness. You become the guide you once needed. You stop hiding your scars and start using them as maps. You recognize the monster in others, not with judgment but with empathy, because you know what it took to survive, and you know what it takes to return. Let's end on a final question, one that only you can answer. What kind of legacy do you want to leave, not as the monster but as the one who outgrew it? What wisdom do you want to pass down? What kind of world do you want to help build? Will you continue the cycle of fear, or will you break it with love? A monster was never your destiny. It was your crucible, your rite of passage. And from that fire, you were not destroyed, you were forged. So go, walk forward. Not as the wound but as the warrior. Not as the victim but as the visionary. Not as the monster but as the human who met their shadow and chose the light anyway. And that is how we survive, not by becoming monsters, but by remembering we were never meant to stay monsters forever.